Check one, two, check. Is the audio working? Shit. Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was muted. Uh, so sorry you can't hear the podcast right now. I edit on the Mac, and I don't have everything set up. I need to be able to hear it to edit it, and I didn't want to have it. I usually use a Bluetooth speaker hooked to my Mac, but GarageBand does not like this half the time, so it gets really weird when I listen to the audio. And I don't have the video feed from the Mac over, which I could do next time if this gets interesting to anybody. But as I was pointing to the screen, right now I'm right about the middle of the master track, and we're at 154, so this is going to be a long one. There's also an interview with a producer for Division 2 for that new Warlords of New York content. It's the same interview I had in the video, but the video got hosed up, I think, by YouTube. So after this, I need to work on that, and I'll probably split the video in two just to make the quality better. So I'm going to be pretty busy today. Oh. It's funny, I didn't even think about bringing up kind of a hot topic right now, and that is E3, which, I brought it up last year because I was seeing pictures from a lot of PR friends and how barren the landscape was at E3 last year. I think it was South Hall. A whole section of it was empty. Publishers just don't give a shit about E3 anymore, really. And I think it's because they're letting the public in. And I contend that's what PAX is for. There's PAX Prime, there's PAX East, there's PAX South, there's PAX Australia. When I would go to PAX, and it's usually after E3, I would go to an appointment and it would be the exact same thing that I saw at E3. So I don't understand why E3 thinks that it needs to be a public event when PAX is the same. And PAX is full of gamers. It's not full of journalists and influencers, and you don't have Angry Joe yelling at a social media guy because he was promised an actual interview with somebody and they weren't going to do it. I just don't. I mean, yeah, there's that allure of going to E3, and I had the same allure back before E3 existed with CES, but PAX, in my opinion, and I've been to a few of them, just PAX Prime, but I think I was 2 or 3. It does the job. You don't need to go to E3 because PAX exists, and I've even got people in the industry kind of arguing with me like, "Oh, why don't you make E3 more accessible?" Why? It gets to the point that everyone's trying to be like everybody else. It's like the Call of Duty syndrome. Battlefield for a while tried to be Call of Duty. All these other games tried to be Call of Duty because it's popular. E3 needs to be its own thing, in my opinion, and I don't like it. And I'm not going to E3 this year. There's no way. Even if I get my hip replaced and I can walk fine and all that, I wouldn't go to E3. There's just no point. There's literally no point. The only thing I don't like about PAX, well, there's a few things I don't like about PAX personally, but the only thing about PAX is it gets really packed, and they only limit tickets, but it gets pretty packed. Oh, now we're talking about movies. That was going to happen. But you'll see how little I actually edit the podcast, but I have to listen to the whole thing. I took one section out, like 30 seconds, because I talked about how you can actually use a DualShock on the Nintendo Switch. What I forgot to mention, because I've never done it, what I forgot is that you can't sync the DualShock with the Switch directly. You need to get one of these. Oh, here, I'll just do this camera. So get one of the 8BitDo USB wireless adapters plug it into the USB in the dock, and you can sync with this and use your DualShock. And it works pretty well, from what I hear. So I took that section out because I didn't really finish the idea, and I didn't mention the USB adapter, etc. But that's the only thing I've taken out so far. Everybody always thinks that I edit the hell out of it and I take all this stuff out. And I don't know if you ever listened to this podcast before, but I don't take a lot out. But this is actually why I don't like editing, because it's literally me sitting at my desk for 5 hours doing this. That's all it is. But usually I use I have this really cool Anker Bluetooth speaker that was on sale a few years ago for like $30-40, and it's awesome. I usually use this when we go to the Packer games, the Brewer games, get great sound out of it, and the battery lasts a really long time, but it's rubberized, so it's pretty tough, and it's water resistant. So if it rains out, you're fine. So far, I mean, it's been rained on a couple times, but everything seals up. So it's got this little tab right here, and it seals up. Yeah, I like it, but since I didn't want it over the microphone and all that, I'm just using the headphones today. And I would take a shot of it, but I don't know if... There's my way too big, way too powerful mixer. And that's what oops. There. But if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. Or you can just look at Rick for a while. This actually came with the virtual Rickality game for the PlayStation VR. And then... Where did it go? I know I knocked it down. I have another Rick, a little toy that came with a loot box, but I don't know where it went. Huh, it's usually sitting right here. I gotta clean my desk off. So here's a Pocket Station. This is pretty cool. It's kind of like the Sega Dreamcast VMU. Doesn't do as much though, but it has a little Tamagotchi thing. I don't have a battery in it right now, but then it opens up like this, and that's actually a PlayStation 1 memory card as well. That's pretty cool. But it's got the little 4 buttons and then this button. I've never actually messed with this. It used to have a battery that ran and everything, but the battery's dead. I'd put one in right now, but my replacements are all downstairs. There's a PAX Prime 2015 pin. No idea why I have it out here. I just don't have anywhere else to put it, I guess. The funny thing is we're at 2 hours and we're already past the break. What the fuck did we talk about? Huh. I see I have viewers, but nobody's asking any questions. Ask some questions. You've got me. I'm not even playing a game. I'm not distracted by playing a game because I can hear this. Make me less bored. And the funny thing is, I was editing last night. I was going to finish, but dinner showed up. Went downstairs. I ate way too much for dinner. And Ginger, that's back there, she actually laid down next to me, which she never does on the couch. She's always at arm's length. Like, I have to lean over to pet her. She butted up right against me, and I was petting her. I fell asleep on the couch, just, head back, mouth wide open, I'm sure. So I didn't get done editing last night. I look like a dirtbag today. I haven't shaved for a couple days, and I've got really long hair. I need a haircut. Now we're talking about something from M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. What's this? No, none of us had seen Birds of Prey yet, but actually, no. I think Ray did see it and talk about it. I'm not going to see it. I refuse. I mean, when it comes to TV, I'll watch it, but I've got a really weird thing about Harley Quinn and what has become of her. I don't like the fact that she knows Kung Fu right away, and I don't like the fact that she's 100 pounds soaking wet and she's walking around with this big oversized mallet, and I need to get past my hang up about it. Because I loved Harley Quinn on the animated series, but what's become of her now, I don't agree with. I don't like it. But yeah, I think Ray does talk about it. We're doing what we're playing and watching right now. 2 hours in. Jeez, what the hell's going on here? Holy shit. Ooh. At the Resch Center, huh? Ooh. Foo Fighters are going to be in Green Bay on May 10th. Nice. Hey, Currymaster, how's it going? The new Harley Quinn show. Ray loves the new Harley Quinn show, and he's badgering me to watch it, but I can't pay for another service right now. I've not had a job since June, so I got to watch my money. Yeah, but Ray loves that show. He talks about it constantly. Fuck you, Travelocity. We got snow last night. I was kind of surprised by it. It wasn't a lot, but it was. We probably got an inch or two. The problem with this 4K monitor, because it's great to have, and I love it, but Windows, no matter what I do, Windows makes the text too small at times, and so I have to use. I have progressive lenses, and I'm still getting used to wearing glasses, but I have to go like this all the time and look like an old man. It's almost like putting the. It's almost like putting my readers on my nose, you know. God, I've worn these a long time. Whoop. Ah. I love these headphone. This headphone, it was expensive as hell because it's got a condenser microphone. It's like a broadcaster microphone, but I mostly love it because it stays nice and tight, and it's only one ear cup, so I can hear myself talk. But here, this is usually what it's like now when I'm. Oh, let me see what's going on here. Jeez, I look like Peavy in the Rocketeer. Oh, we're talking about Ray's movie because Jason actually watched it finally. I'd been hounding Jason to watch it because I said you're actually gonna like it, and Jason was afraid that he wasn't gonna like it, and he'd have to say something to Ray about it. Um, there is, but there's a system setting, and then there are app settings, and Windows Windows 7 was really good. I thought Windows 10. A lot of things are good about it, but I think the interface stuff took a step backward. Yeah, I had to start wearing glasses. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, but I'm still not used to it. I mean, I'm comfortable with them, but I have a real hard time. I've always had a hard time. Like I had those gaming glasses. I don't know where they went, but the ones that are supposed to take the strain off your eyes. And I would wear them every now and then, but I've always had a problem doing anything of having even clear glass in front of my eyes. And I've gotten better over the years because I couldn't even wear sunglasses for a long time, but I've gotten better. See how exciting editing a podcast is? But I mean, part of the here he's talking about Harley Quinn right now. Ray is. Um, oh, he's talking about the movie. Okay, so yes, we do talk about the movie. 50's not very far from me. I'll be 48 this year. So then later today, if I get time, because I got to work on that video afterwards, the Division 2 video, but I want to start playing with this. Um, I'm either going to start playing with this or I'm going to hook the turbo up to the RetroTank SCART and play with that today, which that's probably going to be because it's less cabling. But I still haven't even used this thing, and I really like Mike Cheese products. I really like the original RetroTank, which is sitting over by my coffee maker right now. Or no, I took it downstairs. But the reason I love this thing so much originally was that it has an S-Video connection, which the OSSC doesn't. But then it's got composite component and has a nice line doubler. And the new Pro, because the original RetroTink put out or output to a mini HDMI, so you have to buy a special cable. But this literally just has a regular HDMI connection on it. So really, really exciting that he brought this out. And I think Facebook, I was looking at my memories today. This is the 3-year? And I didn't even know it when I posted this on Facebook. I think this is the 3-year anniversary of me having my stroke. Whoops, wrong thing, Glenn. There we go. Yeah. 2016. Oh no, 4 years. So this is the 4th year. The 4-year anniversary of my stroke. Were you surprised Sony skipping E3 again? No, not at all. I fully expected it. And that hurt E3 more than they want to admit. I mean, Sony was the biggest presence at E3 for years. I hope we get invited. I've told some other people I don't think that we'll get invited. Our relationship with Sony over the last couple of years has really gone downhill. And it's my fault, you know, me retiring and me kind of letting some things happen. It's my fault. So hopefully we can build that relationship up again. I think our Ray doing the Death Stranding review helped immensely with a couple people at least, because he did such a fantastic job with it. And we had a lot of, it's weird, most of the time you do a review you don't have any interaction with PR, but they were kind of releasing a lot of info while we were going, and we had a lot of time to do the review. And we had a lot of opportunity or Ray had a lot of opportunity to talk to PR, and even though he's been with us the longest, he never really gets involved with PR people. He's never been to an event except for the Starhawk launch, which I don't know if any of those PR people are even with Sony anymore that we were dealing with. I don't remember who all was there. But I don't expect to be invited, honestly. I hope we get invited. I would love to go to that. The PS4 reveal and launch and everything were an absolute blast. It was an honor to be at those. So I hope if they do something we get invited, but I'm not expecting it. But E3, in my opinion, is dead. And actually, even at the Division 2 event that I was at a couple weeks ago, it was a lot of influencers. It wasn't like people from IGN and GameSpot, etc. It was a lot of YouTubers and that kind of level of coverage. And like Vic from Electric Playground was there, or where the Reviews on the Run and all that. He was there, and Victor Lucas, and we were all kind of standing around after we had played the game, and E3 came up as a topic, and they were talking about, oh, I'm still going. I'm like, well, you'll have a lot more time to do stuff because nobody else is going to be there. From the pictures that I saw last year and the reports I heard last year, but I told I'm not going to E3 probably ever again. Honestly, I mean, cripes. I don't know how many E3s I attended over the years. Probably 8, something like that. But I think they've ruined it. I think the ESA has completely ruined it. And, you say something about it should be media only or whatever, and people think that you're being a snob about it. That has nothing to do with it. It's about having access to stuff. And luckily, we have enough appointments that we can go see things. But if you have a break and you want to go roam the floor with the public in there, it's not even worth it. It's just not worth it because you can't get to anything. I think this is screwed up a little bit. Any rumors on PS5 specs? Well, I think we all know the specs. I don't think that's even a question anymore. And we talk about it on here, but backward compatibility, that's the big rumor. I mean, you asked if are there any rumors. Yeah, the rumor is that it's going to have full backward compatibility. Now, what do they mean by full? Is it just PS4 because they're both x86 chipsets? Will it play everything? You know, PlayStation up to PS5, 4? That'd be amazing. I have a whole closet full of games over here, shelves of games, and I have a box of PS3 games behind the couch right now because I have nowhere to put them in a big box of games. It'd be amazing. You know, I would love to play more PS3 stuff with my modded DualShock. So these buttons right here on the back of the controller, these are on the right side, they map to the L and the R here because my hand doesn't work very well and I can't use the triggers anymore because my finger won't bend. That's from the accident even. And my DualShock 3s, none of them are modded, but I have 3 modded PS4 controllers. So now if I need to hit L1 or L2, it's L1, L2. Whoops. So L1 here and L2 here, and I don't use these. So I hope so. I mean, it would be great to be able to... That's one nice thing about PlayStation Now and having PS3 games on there. Not many, but it allows me to use those buttons. The known specs are really good for PS5. I think the Xbox... The new Xbox and the new PS5 are going to be very similar in terms of hardware architecture. And what really is going to set things apart is what set things apart with this generation. Mostly is the freaking OS and the interface and the features. Because quite frankly, you know, I've got 3 Xbox Ones. Mark has the original. He's borrowing it for an extended period of time. But I've got an Xbox One S up here, and I have an Xbox One X in the living room for the 4K TV. Even now, this many years later, and the X, you know, they always shout to the heavens that it's the most powerful console available. The OS and the interface are slow as molasses. They're terrible. I hate it. The interface isn't easy to get around with. It's slow. It's sluggish. If you switch to anything else, you know, it's really cruddy in my opinion. And Microsoft needs to change that. I mean, even adjusting audio settings, like if you're trying to stream and you want to use a headphone plugged into your controller, half the time the mic won't work and you don't know why. You don't have a submenu that you can just pull up and adjust that stuff. It's all over the place for settings, and I hate it that way. So, I mean, I've given the Xbox a lot of tries and a lot of play. And the other thing is I just don't like this controller very much. This thing is a hog. It is the heaviest controller I own. Except for... Oh, what's that game called? There's the original Xbox game that... And we talk about it on this podcast a little bit. There's the original game that you have that big console with both joysticks. It's a mech game. I always forget the name of it. Whoops. But this thing's heavy as hell. I posted a picture the other day because I was trying out the... Oh, I forgot to talk about it again. I've been playing with the Astro Gaming CR40 or something like that. And I thought it was as heavy as the Xbox One Elite, but the Elite is still more heavy. It's heavier. Hey, Sean. But, I mean, I'm hearing... I hear little bits and pieces from developers. Nobody's really talking about the PS5 yet. Most developers that aren't first parties only got read in not too long ago. Dev kits are definitely out there. I don't even know if Stuart has one yet, honestly. But I'm excited for PS5. I mean, I don't think the PS4 is done by any means. I don't have that feeling like, okay, we need something new. But the market kind of demands upgrades after a while. 4K is the new hotness, and that's why the Pro came out. But the Pro doesn't do true 4K. It basically uses a scaler for a lot of things. Except for there are a couple games that run at true 4K. Warframe, I think, does, or War Thunder. A couple other ones. You've never owned an Xbox? I hate the controllers too. Yeah, I mean, I collect consoles, obviously. Now we're talking about the stuff I've been doing with a lot of the retro consoles. I've been talking about the Saturn right now. I don't play the Xbox One a lot, but what'll happen is every couple of weeks I feel guilty because that console was so expensive that I'll turn it on and see if there's anything new to grab on Game Pass, and I'll see if the new free games are out for Xbox One, on Xbox Live. If you have Gold, you get free games like with PlayStation Plus. So I'll see if that stuff's there, and then every now and then I'll go in and check some games out. Before I went to San Francisco, I was playing something. Well, for a while I was trying to play some Halo games because I really want to understand why they're so popular, which I still can't figure out. But I was playing Halo 5 for a while, and I looked it up, and I'm over halfway through it, but I gave up on it. I just don't like it. The story's not compelling to me because I don't know the whole lore, but the gameplay I think is terrible. As a first-person shooter, I think it's just not good. And then somebody mentioned trying ODST out. I think Joel did, actually. So ODST came out as part of the Master Chief Collection, but you had to actually pay extra for it. Why call it the collection if it doesn't have everything in it? But you had to pay for it. It was only like $5 or something like that, though. So I played ODST. I've never played it before. It's definitely a better game than Halo 5. But it's an odd game. I played it I think I streamed it too. I played it for like 3-4 hours and then I gave up on it. I was bored. Still wish I had my old Sega Genesis. I love that console. I have 3 of them. Actually, if you want a Genesis, get the analog Mega SG. It's fantastic. It's an FPGA system. It's set up so that you can play it on a high-def TV. It's HDMI output. The quality's fantastic. It uses all the original Genesis controllers. It's compatible with all the Genesis games, and it has... Oh, it's downstairs. It's got the slot on it, so if you have a Sega CD, you can plug in the Sega CD and use it. But the Mega SG is fantastic. I personally was never that big of a Sega fan back in the 16-bit days and the 8-bit days. And I've got a Master System. Mark and I both talked, our friend Martin, who lives in Japan, talked him into finding Japanese Master System for us because they have the FM sound module in them. And I've never used it. It sits on a shelf. Right there, I can see it from here. And I've never used the damn thing. You love the Sega CD, Sean? There's some good games in the Sega CD, but not many. The Sega CD had so much promise, but not many really used it. Core Design were probably the ones that used it the most. But seriously, Spawn, get an analog Mega SG. It's a fantastic device. And the other cool thing is there's a jailbreak firmware for it that the way Kevtris designed the chipset, you can't brick the system by putting a different firmware on or whatever. You can always recover. And I had to explain this to Joel because Joel got one, and I'm like, "Oh, did you put the jailbreak firmware on yet?" No, I don't want to. I'm like, no, it's really good. And I gave him everything on a couple of SD cards and walked him all the way through it. And now he loves it because the jailbreak firmware allows you to put ROMs on an SD card. So I loaded mine up. There's 4 systems. I think it's 4. It's at least 3. I think it's 4. Yeah, it is 4. So you can put ROMs on there for the Sega Genesis, for the Master System, for the Game Gear, and for the ColecoVision. And everything plays perfectly. There's only a couple ColecoVision games that won't work because they have a like a super controller. It's called. It's this really crazy controller they brought out for it that kind of has a trigger grip on it, and it's got 4 buttons. Those games don't work on any of the, like, even on the FPGA that I have. But it's fucking cool. And putting the new firmware on is nothing. You don't have to hack anything. You just need I keep an SD card around specifically for firmware updates on consoles, because there's a jailbreak on the Super NT. There's a jailbreak on the NES one, I'm sure, which I don't have that. And there's a jailbreak for the Genesis one. And it's awesome. It works extremely well. So I highly, highly, highly recommend getting one if you're a Genesis fan at all. Oh, we're talking about McMillions on HBO right now, which I watched the new episode last night. It's so good. It's one of the best things I've seen on TV in a while. And what McMillions is about, we talk about on the podcast, but it's a documentary series that talks about how the Monopoly game at McDonald's was actually rigged a bunch of years ago. I think it was in the 80s. But it's fascinating stuff. And it's all about the mob getting involved. And I'm on episode 3, and they haven't revealed a lot of stuff yet, but the people I've talked to and everything, it's so good. It's funny about the Sega CD because I actually have 3 of them, Sean, because they break down a lot. They need to be recapped. The capacitors in them just die. So I have my launch day system, which is a Model 1, and it died. I don't even know where it is right now. I saw it a while back, and I can't find it because I want to get it fixed. So I bought a Sega Genesis 2 plus a Sega CD2 used in Madison a bunch of years ago when I was with Trickman Terry and Mark and Jesse. And it worked for a while, and then it died. So then there's... Hang on. Oh, okay. Let's talk about movies. There used to be this little shop in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where my parents live. And I always called it the garage store, or the garage sale store. It was this guy that obviously went to garage sales and just bought whatever. And I finally heard about the place, so I went down there and checked it. And he had a bunch of video games in a case. And I bought a couple of games from him. So every now and then when I would go to town, I would stop at this little shop. It's gone now. I think his kids made him close it up. But I would stop in there, and at one time, there was this big plastic, like, briefcase thing. And inside of it was a Sega CD2 with a Genesis 2 all in one, you know. And I asked him how much he was asking for it, and he didn't even know. Because I guess his kid would come in and price stuff, which... It was pretty obvious they just went on eBay, and because he did that. I'm like, well, let's figure out a price. So he goes to eBay, and of course he's like, "Whoa, look at this! Look at this!" Like, yeah, that's what people are asking. I go to the ones that are sold, or the ones that actually went through. So I worked out a pretty good deal with him. I think I bought the whole thing for $100. And it came with a controller, which I don't care about that because I can't use a controller anyway. But it worked great. We plugged it in. He had a TV there. We plugged it in to make sure it worked. And I totally forgot. I get it home, and to test it, he had a loose copy of Sewer Shark, and it was still in the drive. So I got a copy of Sewer Shark. Whoopee. So that's the one I have now, and then I had it completely fixed. I had the laser replaced, and I had it recapped. Or no, not this one. I had the other Sega, the CD2, or the Model 2 that I had that recapped and everything, so I have 2 working CD units now. Because I wanted one for the Genesis itself, I just wanted it. Because I have RGB cables for it, and I can use the 32X. And because that's the one thing about the Mega SG is that the 32X doesn't work on it. Although I think with the new DAC it does, but I don't have a CRT to plug it in. So I got it, and with the Mega SG, I've got some videos up on my Retro Nation YouTube channel. The quality's great on it. And at the time... The firmware was young, and like Silpheed would freeze up. Like Silpheed actually crashed on me. But now the Mr. FPGA, which is it's got multiple systems on it. And I put a video on our PS Nation channel. Somebody out of the blue just dropped a new core on the Mystery FPGA that added support for Sega CD, so now I can play it on there, and it's all digital and it looks great. And then I started realizing how little of the library I gave a shit about on the Sega CD. Kind of the same with the Dreamcast. I love the Dreamcast. I love the hardware itself, and I love the Dreamcast, but library-wise, a lot of the games I just don't care about. I mean, there's a couple that I like to I like to play back then, but they were online, and now the servers are offline, so I can't play them anymore. Now we're still talking about movies. We're telling Ray to watch a couple movies. I think I'm talking about Jojo Rabbit. Yeah, Jojo Rabbit. It's got to be. But it's funny. I was never a Genesis fan, yet I own more Sega Genesis / Sega CD hardware than I do Super Nintendo. Well, I was going to say TurboGrafx, but I think I still have more TurboGrafx hardware. Because I've got the Turbo Duo, the Turbo Express. I've got Rock's original TurboGrafx 16 here, and I told him he's never getting it back. I've got a Super Graphics. I've got a PCFX, which isn't TurboGrafx, but yeah. Look, we're getting farther. Goes all the way to the end here, but we're up to here now. God, this is going to be a long podcast. I thought we only went 3 hours. Sorry, I just got a message. I got to check it. Ha! This is already better having you guys on here asking me stuff because, quite frankly, this gets really boring really quick. I almost fell asleep at my desk last night. I had my head down, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, whoa. And it's not that the conversation's not riveting, but I've already heard it because I was in it. But I just don't listen to podcasts. I literally don't listen to podcasts anymore. And then I get to battle with this Division 2 video afterwards, and rendering that stuff just takes forever. So I usually just leave it and go downstairs and have lunch or whatever. Or let the dog go UT, or... Now I'm trying to figure out if I should run the snowblower today or not. It didn't snow that bad. But either later today or tomorrow, I started playing Yakuza 3 in the new PS4 pack. And it's so good. So I might stream some Yakuza 3 starting today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow because I'm going to be up here all day working on stuff. Now we're talking about a movie that nobody's heard about in 10, 15 years. Why do you have to listen to this whole thing? It's the way I learned how to do it, or the way I taught myself how to do it. But I gave an example before that we were talking about the Nintendo Switch, and the controller came up. And I really like the Pro controller, but because I require a mod like I've done on the DualShocks where I can remap the left triggers to something on the right side, I can't play Zelda because the left trigger is for the shield, and you have to be able to time the shield. You know, you have to be able to parry, and I can't do it. So I remember hearing something about being able to use the DualShock on the Switch because it's Bluetooth. But what I forgot at the time when we were talking about is the fact that you can't sync non-Nintendo Bluetooth devices to it. You can't. There's no Bluetooth headphone access, anything like that. So when we were done, I just wanted to verify it before I put it in the podcast. And what you need is one of these, which is the 8BitDo wireless or the Bluetooth dongle. And you can plug this in to the USB port on the dock and everything and actually sync your DualShock up to the Switch. And I didn't mention that, so it was only really a half-truth in the podcast. So I have to listen to this because I knew that it was in there somewhere, but I couldn't remember where because I don't keep notes. And I had to find that spot and cut that out because obviously it wasn't correct. But I also have to listen if we have any audio corruption anywhere because I use a Skype recorder. These guys don't have recording capability on their side, so we're just using a Skype recorder, which I normally don't do, but there's just things you have to check for, and it's because I think part of it comes from me being such a stickler for the audio quality, even though it goes down a little bit by using the Skype recorder, obviously, but that was always my number one thing, was, you know, the audio quality. So if anything happens, I need to be able to fix it or remove it, and there may be a discussion that just doesn't need to be there because we really care about that with our 4-hour podcast. But so I wouldn't say I have to listen to it. I force myself to listen to it, the whole thing. And I've done some episodes in the past years that I know that are fine, like the E3 ones. Whenever we would record from E3, I would put it on the laptop. I would find where we start, cut the shit off before, because it was 10 minutes of me trying to get people to get their shit together. And then I would go to the end and just cut it off. But the normal one I care about a little bit more. It's a production value. Does this help? Nah, I got that in my eye. Now I'm talking about Spectrum, which is, you know, Charter cable. Spectrum, out of the blue, so they've been producing their own TV shows lately, but you can only get to them and watch them if you have Spectrum, which I don't have cable. I only have internet, but my parents do. So I see the ads all the time when I'm at my parents' house. Out of the blue, I get an email, and they sent me screeners for a show that was coming out that's out now, called Manhunt, Deadly Game, I think, or something. And it's about the Atlanta Olympics bombing, you know, with Richard Jewell and everything. And I thought the timing was really interesting since the Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell movie just came out a couple months ago, and so I watched the whole show. It was great. Like, they sent me the whole thing, but you can only watch it on a browser, so I couldn't even like Chromecast or nothing. So I had to watch it on my tablet. Well, now they have another show coming out, and they sent me the screeners for that out of the blue. No email asking like, "Hey, do you want to check this out?" or anything like that. It's just, here you go. So probably tomorrow I'm going to start watching it, but it's got Mark Strong in it, who I love that guy, with that deep voice of his. And you know, if you saw him, he was Merlin in the Kingsman movies, and he was the bad guy in Shazam. So yeah, it's just, I've been doing this for so long that random stuff like that happens all the time, and it just blows me away. I mean, I get invited to movie premieres like in New York City all the time. I can't go. And the funniest one was a couple of months ago. I wonder if I still have the email. Let me see if I still have it. I got an email, I'd say about a month or two ago. Yeah, here we go. As of today, the Tokyo Media Center is now accepting accreditation card applications for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. What? Sent me a QR code and everything. Yeah, just weird. But you get on these lists over the years, and just about all PR works the same. It's you get on these lists, and that's it. As long as you can keep that relationship alive, it makes things a little bit easier over time. But it's still a trudge sometimes trying to get things done, like have an interview or whatever. Oh. 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 Just going through my spam to make sure it's all spam, because a lot of times it's not spam. Okay, what is this? So that new show on Spectrum, by the way, it's called Temple, and they sent me the first 4 episodes, which is gonna suck because then I gotta figure out a way to watch the rest of the show when it comes out. Huh. Ooh. Huh. That's a weird one. Some of the emails I get are just odd. Did I subscribe to CBS? No, until I get a job, I can't subscribe to anything else. But Ray sent me video files for that show so I can watch it. He just sent them today, actually. So, because the problem is they put the first episode up on YouTube, and I loved it. And I don't know what it is, but people always assume that I only like Star Wars or something. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I mean, I've done stuff with Star Trek that not many people have been able to do. Like they had a big event for it was like the 40th anniversary or something. This is years ago when I lived in Kansas City, so probably the early 90s, something like that. And they showed, I can probably figure it out. But they went to theaters and they showed all 5 Star Trek movies, 1 through 5. And it was the first time that you could see the trailer for Star Trek 6, or no. Yeah. That's what it was, yeah. Because I love 6. Out of all the Star Trek movies, that's my favorite. It's not Wrath of Khan. It's 6. And it was the first time you could see the trailer for it, but you're literally sitting in a theater all day for 5 Star Trek movies. And let's be honest, that first movie, it's a tough movie to sit through. It's rough. But it was an all-day event. I went with my best friend David and at his girlfriend at the time, and we sat in this theater. And Kansas City, it's a big city, so there are Star Trek fan groups all over the country, all over the world, and they call themselves by a ship name. They give themselves a designation and a ship name. So of course, I think there were like 3 of them there, and I was in no mood because I think I had worked a lot the day before. I was really tired. I was actually going to bail on it at the time because I was so exhausted. And David talked me into going. And on the ride over, I was like, if I see a pair of Spock ears, I'm going to kill somebody. Like, I just was in no mood. So we get there, and I mean, people are all dressed up, and this is kind of before cosplay was a thing, like an actual named thing. But there were a lot of people in uniforms and such, and they had tables set up because I think at that time there were 3 different ships in the Kansas City area, and we sat in the second or third row in this humongous theater. It's not there anymore, which is a shame. And I actually worked at this theater in high school called the Glenwood Theater. It was a massive theater. It was the biggest screen in the area. Just a beautiful place. Like, there was a fountain out in the lobby. There were 3 other theaters along the side, and there were a couple fountains. They did a couple movie premieres there. Like, it was a gorgeous place. And of course they tore it down and put a fucking strip mall up. It's an absolute shame. But like the lobby had marble floors. I mean, it was just a gorgeous place. But the theater, the main theater, was humongous. So we're sitting in like the third row, and I mean, it was almost like watching an IMAX movie. And of course, after the first movie, a dude stands up in front of us. He's got his uniform on, just a nerd. Like, I'm a nerd, but I'm not a nerd. This guy was a nerd. And he stands up, and I'm still kind of grumpy because that first movie just puts you in a bad mood. And he's like, who's excited to see the rest of the movies? Ah! Who's excited to see the new trailer for Star Trek 6? Ah! And he just kept doing it. And finally, and it was only about a quarter of the theater really getting into it. A lot of other people were kind of like us, where we just wanted to see the movies. We're fans of the show. We're fans of the movies, but just dial it down a couple notches. So finally I yelled out, how many here still live in their basement and they're over 30? And then, of course, the room got quiet and a few people laughed. The guys in front of us just laughed their asses off when I did that. But, I mean, I'm a big Star Trek fan. But when CBS put, Discovery? I've never seen Discovery. I've never seen, except for the very first episode I watched when I was at Rostel's house in Seattle. I've never watched it because it's behind a paywall, and I can only, like I said, I don't know, I haven't had a job since June. I don't have that much money, Would you like to donate to the Church of Christ? Nah. How about the Human Fund? Nah. But that was always the thing with Josh, and even, I think Jason even said it on this podcast. Like, oh, you're not much of a Star Trek fan. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Where do you get this from? Because there's a couple people on our staff. Josh is one of them, but there's a couple people that act like they're a bigger fan of something than me. But number one, it's not a competition. But number two, where are you getting this information from? I don't get it. I'm usually very open about what I'm a fan of and what I'm not a fan of, But I'm a big fan of Star Trek. I always have been. But I will watch it now because it sounds like Ray's got all the MP4 files for it, so I can watch Picard. And I really do want to watch it. Very, very. I almost subscribed, but I figured if I have to subscribe, I'm going to wait until the entire show's up, so I can just binge it and then kill my subscription and only pay for a month. Same way with DC streaming service. I really want to watch Doom Patrol. That first episode was on YouTube, and I liked it. I didn't know anything about Doom Patrol before that. I'm a DC fan, but I didn't know anything about it except that it existed. Stoff says I can never get into Star Trek. Well, Stoff, that's just your problem of being a Canadian, right? Canada thing? I kid, I kid. I mean, come on, I've met J.J. Abrams twice. Once at E3 and once at his studio, his actual building. That's right, nerds. Take that. It was funny, too, because the second time I met him, I think we told the story about Abrams. There was a Star Trek game for PS3 and Xbox 360 where you could play online co-op. And they had this demo for it. And at the time, it looked like a great game. It ended up not being very good, but at the time, it looked really cool. But when you went into the room, they had, in a glass case, they had a phaser from the new Abrams movie, the first reboot, or whatever you want to call it. And nobody had ever seen the phasers before and everything. And I knew the PR guy pretty well. I still know him. Really cool guy. And I walk in right away. I'm like, "Oh, is that the phaser from the new movie?" He's like, "Yep." But you can't mention it to anybody, and you can't take a picture of it. You can't talk about it. Just you didn't see it. I'm like, "Well, why the fuck do you have it here?" It's ambiance. So Josh and I are in this room and we're watching the game with some other people, and it's dark. And all of a sudden the door opens behind us, and and this isn't like a full room. This is kind of a temporary room that they build. They have all these little meeting room things that they build up with temporary walls and everything at E3 and in these meeting rooms. So the door opens behind us, and nobody really thinks anything of it because that happens all the time. People walk in and out. But I look behind me, and it was really dark, but I saw the glasses and everything. I'm like, huh. So then I turned around again when the screen got really bright on the screen. I noticed, I think that's J.J. Abrams. And he had a kid with him. He had his son with him. And they get done with the demo. And all of a sudden, nobody really realized he was there yet. But finally, people started realizing, holy shit, J.J. Abrams is in here. And it wasn't a planned thing. It wasn't like he was going to make an appearance at every meeting, because they were doing demos in all the different rooms. He just showed up. He was roaming E3 with his kid, and he just decided to stop in. And out of the blue, and this is after we're being told, you don't talk about that phaser, you don't take a picture of it, nothing. Out of the blue, he just looks over and he's like, oh, is that the new phaser? My buddy's like, yeah. J.J. Abrams lifts the glass case up, grabs it, shows his son, and they walk out into E3 with it. That was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen at E3. And so I brought that up to him when I was at his studio with my buddy, because my buddy makes software that they use in making movies, special effects software. He actually just won an Oscar this last year, technical Oscar. So we went to Abrams' studio so they could see this. It's rotoscoping. It's when we were out in LA, because my buddy, that same guy, won in Extra Life, won that Uncharted seat, that train seat that we had from Uncharted, and the whole team at Naughty Dog signed it and all that. So we were out there to get that chair, but then he had appointments for his work because it's his company. So we went to like Sony Digital Pictures where they were working on the first Spider-Man, I think, or one of the Spider-Man movies, and they were working on a Smurfs movie. But we went there, and that was a lot of fun. Really nice people. And then we went to Abrams' studio, and then I want to say we went to another one too, but I can't remember. But again, he's doing this demo of his software, and I'm kind of sitting in the background, and a guy walks in. It's really dark in the room again, but a guy walks in and goes over to this desk in the corner about probably 20, 30 feet away from me. And it was only 5 or 6 people in the room with us, and it was a really big room. It's where the people that actually work with that kind of software, they were all in that room. And they had props from the first Star Trek movie in there. So I was just nerding out. I'm like, oh, what's this? Or no, the second movie. because when we got there, as an aside, when we got there, we had to meet with, I think it was Robert Orsi, his producer, and we go into his office to sign the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement at the time, and it's like that thick. I've signed so many NDAs over the years, like in the video game business. The biggest one at that time was probably 4 or 5 pages. This NDA was, I'm not kidding, like that thick. And my buddy Paul, he's got a kind of a nervous talking thing. So we sign the NDAs, and I'm like, I know what this all means and everything, and no problem. So I sign it. So my buddy Paul's talking to the producer, and I turn around, and all of a sudden I realize the storyboard for the first scene in, I think it's the second Star Trek movie, where they go down to the planet and they, it has to be the second movie, because it's the characters with the white faces, and they're on the planet to save the planet, and they're going against Starfleet orders. Yeah, it is the second one. And they're on the planet, and they put that bomb down in the lava. So the whole storyboard is up on his wall, and nobody knows anything about this movie except for a really brief trailer at the time. So I'm just nerding out. And I even asked him, like, could I possibly take a picture of this for later on, like when the NDA lifts and everything? He's like, nope, can't. And I got it, but I still had to ask. But I mean, it's the whole wall of his office, one of the 4 walls, covered with storyboards. So I'm just nerding out and everything. So they get done with the demo in this room, and the lights come back on. I look over, I'm like, it's Abrams. And I'd actually pulled up a picture of him on my phone just to make sure, So he's mingling around, and he comes over to my buddy and I, and he's talking to my buddy because we're here for him. I'm just along for the ride. And he turns to me and goes, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm just helping him out. I said, we're out here actually to go to Naughty Dog Studios to get something. He's like, well, why is that? I'm like, I do a PlayStation podcast, blah, blah, blah. I said, we did some stuff for charity, and explained the whole thing to him. And I said, actually, you and I have met before. He goes, really? And I kind of recounted the story about E3. And you could see it in his face, like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I said, so did you get in trouble for that? He goes, I don't get in trouble for stuff like that. He goes, it was just hilarious. But yeah, I got to be a total nerd. I mean, that's one thing about E3. You really get to be a nerd. I mean, we got to hang out with Michael Rooker that one time, and then that's before he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it was before Walking Dead, even though I don't watch that show. But, met Eliza Dushku. She was there years ago. She was the voice of a character in a game from Bethesda called Wet, which was a terrible game. Third-person action game, but it was just clunky as hell. But I got to meet her, and that's when she was still dating Rick Fox. So Rick Fox, NBA player that was retired, and he's actually, his E3 badge actually says Eliza Dushku. I don't know, like, all right. And sometimes it's just like saying hi to somebody. Most of the time it's that, but there are times when you're in an appointment, like with Michael Rooker, where it was for Days of Thunder game for the 360 and PS3. It really wasn't that good, but he hung out with us the whole time, like for the whole half an hour. And I made Josh race because my left thumb, I didn't think I'd be able to do very well, so I made Josh race, and Michael Rooker's behind him and like shaking his shoulders and everything, like, come on, rookie, do it, Rook. And of course I offered him a chocolate covered pretzel from Mallrats. But that's the fun times at E3 that, I mean, usually, at least me, I'm really busy and I don't have a lot of time to screw around, and you're lucky enough to run into somebody that you know, and just in passing at E3, like you're walking the halls going to another appointment, and then you gotta, no matter what, you're going to be apologizing to people for being late, because there's 2 halls at E3, and like Devolver is out in a parking lot across the street at the Hooters. There's always stuff, and I don't walk that fast to begin with, but even if you can run, you're not going to make all your appointments on time. And one of the last ones, I felt really bad because I had a one-on-one hands-on with Knack 2, which Knack 2 was really good, but it was with Mark Cerny. And I'd met Mark Cerny a couple times before. We met at the PS4 launch event. But Mark can get annoyed real easily. And they called me, and I was on my way over, but I got held up at this other appointment. And PR called me, and I'm like, yeah. I said, I'm walking now. I'm in South Hall. I'm coming to West Hall right now, and there's a few ways to get from South Hall to West Hall. You can either go outside and walk across. I think it's Figueroa, or Pico. Walk across Pico and go to the other hall, or there's a walkway, and the walkway is great because a lot of people don't know about it. And there's actually kind of an upstairs part of the walkway that nobody knows about, which is my favorite thing. It's up by the meeting rooms. And the fun thing is, until they started letting the public in, because the public would just go up there and nobody was checking, you weren't supposed to be able to get in the meeting rooms unless you were an exhibitor or media. It was so great because there wasn't a crowd. Then when they started letting the public in, they would just sneak up there, and the guards weren't looking at the badges. They didn't give a shit. They just let anybody go up there. And the people from the public, they didn't know any better. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. So they were just going up there, and they were walking into meeting rooms. And that first year, I remember it. Like, they were walking into the meeting rooms, just walking in, and somebody's like, do you have an appointment? And they had to kick all these people out all the time. They're like, hey, you're not supposed to be in here. We're going through emails right now, so hopefully we're getting close to the end. But it doesn't look like it, because we still have all this way to go. What the fuck did we talk about? Anyway, that's what you get from me for Star Trek. 20 minutes of other E3 bullshit. See, here's me saying A few years ago, I would have stopped and taken every one of those out. And the problem was, Josh said a lot. And I finally got tired of doing it because it was making editing, like, it would take 2 hours longer just to hunt all those down. I've just gotten to the point now where I don't take them out unless it gets really bad. Anyway, now I'm losing viewers. Nobody cares anymore. Steel Battalion. Yeah, that's right, Sean. I have it. I should get that going. Oh, I think my Xbox is in the other room. I should maybe hook that up this weekend. It's so fucking hard, though. It's a really tough game. And it stinks because Steel Battalion 2 came out, but there's no point to have it anymore because it was online only. And servers are down. Get that in backward compatibility. Yeah, right. Even though controller ports are different and... That game is still a trip, though. I haven't played it for a while. Maybe I should hook all that up. It's funny because I got an RGB cable for the original Xbox. And then I learned that because that system can do component and everything. But I was like, I'm getting all this other stuff for RGB. I might as well try that. RGB on the Xbox is terrible because it limits it to, I want to say 480i or something. Should get my modded Xbox hooked up and stream it. Next Gran Turismo, any news on that? The only news I'm hearing is that GT Sport in some iteration is going to be a launch title for PS5. I've heard it a good 4 or 5 times now. I hope so, but the GT series has a habit of getting delayed. But apparently, and I'm just saying apparently because it's not verified, but apparently GT Sport was built on the GT6 framework, but the way they built GT6, it's supposed to be a lot more flexible and a lot easier to port over. Plus, I mean, the PS5 is running an x86 architecture just like the PS4, so I think that kind of work is probably going to be a little bit easier to do. I really hope so, and I really hope that my steering wheels work with it. Of course, we know it probably won't, but I hope so. Because I love that TGT wheel from Thrustmaster, the Gran Turismo branded one. It's fantastic. And I haven't used it lately, and I need to get back into that. But, Yeah, if it's a launch title, my God, I can't imagine what that game's gonna look like because I think it already looks fantastic. But being able to do real time ray tracing with all the lighting in GT and real time ray tracing with just the colors coming off the cars and the interactions, oh my God, that's gonna look outstanding. God, it feels like we're getting to the end, but let me look at something quick. Just want to see if it goes all the way to the end here. Oh my God. 353. So 43 minutes left. Stuff, we got to get together and play some GT soon. Some Gran Turismo Online. And Battlefield 5. Wow, we're talking about Dying Light now. Wow, we're way all over the place. And I put one of my favorite video game songs from the TurboGrafx era on the break this week. From a game that was supposed to be released in the US and never got released, and I was the one that had it, and I'm the one that released it so people could play it. But it's a Japanese game called Star Parodier. It's one of my favorite shooters ever. I just love the game. And I've had that soundtrack in my head for the last couple weeks, so I figured I'd share it. Someone's passed out. Whoops. Ow. Here I'm being reminded that I need to play Days Gone because I still haven't played it. What the twist? It's kind of scary that I can make myself laugh. Dreamcast. It's thinking. Huh. It's funny how. So we have a Slack server for our staff so we can all talk to each other and talk about stuff coming up and whatnot. The mood has changed so much lately. It's so much happier. All the intensity's gone. It's so great. XFL, I don't give a fuck. I haven't watched. I think I've seen a minute of it because I was watching Pat McAfee talk about it on YouTube once. Because every now and then I'll watch some of his videos. He's the former kicker from Indianapolis. He does like sports commentary now, and I think he's involved with the broadcast for the XFL or something. I think he's on the field. So I saw a little. I just don't care. I'm in Green Bay Packer country, and I'm a Chiefs fan, so caw. Yeah. It was weird seeing AJ Hawk do his. I guess Pat was away for whatever, and AJ Hawk was filling in for him, and obviously AJ Hawk was the Green Bay Packer for a long time, so it was kind of cool to see. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, I'm sure St. Louis is happy. That deal, that fucking owner. What the fuck? Of the Rams? Fuck that guy. What a deal. And did the Rams do anything since they moved out there? Not really. Or except for that one year. They had a really good year, but did they do anything this year? I don't remember hearing about the Rams at all. You know? And that new stadium in Vegas, the new stadium in Vegas is stupid. And I mean, I've seen the new stadium get in different stages out in LA because they built it right by the horse track, or they took over the horse track that was there because it's right next to the Forum. So I saw it right when they were digging everything when I went out there for COD XP a few years ago. It's a great spot for access from the airport because it's right down the street from the airport, but it's in a shitty neighborhood. I mean, like all the buildings around where that new football stadium is, they all have bars in the windows, and I mean, it's not the greatest area. Cranky, yeah. Fuck that guy. What a piece of crap. Just because Jerry Jones told him to do something. Just like the owner of the Chargers. Fuck. Oh, now we're talking about Xbox One, which is funny since I think I'm the only one of the three of us that even has one. Man, now I'm thinking about hooking up the Xbox and playing Steel Battalion. It won't be today, though. Gosh, I may have to do that. By the way, if you have a Mac and you need a keyboard, this Logitech wireless keyboard is amazing. It's got solar panels on it, so you never have to put batteries in it. I love it. I love it's got kind of the chiclet buttons and everything, or keys. Love it. And obviously, I love this Logitech MX518 mouse because I have two of them and they're sitting right next to each other. So here's my PC and here's my Mac. Oh, now Ray's telling us that he's a PlayStation fanboy like any of us didn't know that. I guess I can move. There. Sorry, I just kind of hastily put this together today, so. Who needs to see me? Watch that amazing screen. Oh, we're getting closer. Getting closer. Desk is just littered with controllers. There's some PlayStation Nation stickers for your touchpad. Whoops. Dang it. And yes, I added on a PlayStation display. This is the PlayStation 3D display. That's what my Mac is hooked to. And there's the glasses. They don't say so. Oh, yeah, they do. Damn it. There. I should charge these up and try it out today. I haven't done 3D on this screen in a long time. I have 3 of those screens, by the way. Well, someone woke up. Damn it. Wow. Darn it. There we go. Holding off on a VR purchase. What do you think? Oh, if you're going to wait this long, wait until PS5 is revealed and see if they do a new headset for it. We talk about it on the podcast, actually, because Ray is a big VR nut. But the PlayStation VR is awesome. And Ray owns like all of them. He has the he has a couple different Oculus. He has the Vive. I'm trying to think of what else he has, and he talks about it on this podcast. But I really like PSVR. I don't play it enough because my dog freaks out when I have the headset on. But it is better with a PlayStation 4 Pro, not from a resolution standpoint because the resolution of the screen itself is fixed. But some games take advantage of the Pro, and you get better textures, you get better frame rates, better stuff. So, like Starblood Arena is better on a Pro. Looks better and it runs better. Not every game does, though, but there are quite a few games that do. But there were some amazing deals for PlayStation VR during Christmas. I don't know if there still are, but because I don't look, pricing, but it's cool. And the great thing is Sony really supported it. I mean, we're still seeing games come out, and I love that they didn't just drop it like like Google drops everything. Oops. Sorry. I just said IT professional. Wow. Getting emails like crazy. Oh. 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 Oh, mail's here. I thought there were more than 2 Zardas. Huh. I think Ray is obsessed with hot wings. Oh my god. Now, can I order it to be shipped? Probably not. Yeah, this is just for delivery in town. Damn it. Hmm. One thing I really hate about some PR emails that you get is that they don't tell you what platform it's coming out on. They just assume that you know. And I've never heard of this game before. I can't mention it because it's under embargo, but. Oh. Yeah, no idea. Now I gotta look it up. Drone Champions League is now out on all platforms. So you can fly drones. Man. I wish it would stop snowing because I really want to smoke some meat. And I can do it in the cold. I just can't get around because my back steps are mounded up. There's like 3 feet of snow on my back steps. I can't get out. Oot. And going back to your point, Vacom 100, I believe that PlayStation, when they did that first reveal, the PS5 was coming and they showed some demos. I believe they said there's going to be VR in PS5. I think that's more than likely what's going to happen. I'm guessing. But more than likely, this headset will probably be compatible, but maybe next they want to sell new headsets. But there's going to be a new headset, almost assuredly. And I have a feeling they'll probably handle the tracking a different way instead of having it with the lights on it and with the camera. I'm guessing, but I think with some of the advances with other VR headsets, I could see Sony kind of adapting to something like that. I just hope the PS5 has more than a couple of USB ports. You know, they keep bringing so much shit out that plugs in with USB, and I mean, I use the USB hub up here for the steering wheel and my wireless headphones and. Yay! Sean's review for Super Mega Space Blaster Special Turbo went up. Nice. Here we're talking about Steel Battalion right now. You mentioned a while back about doing something on smoking on YouTube. Yeah, and there was interest. I just never got around to it. Well, I mean, part of it is I don't have a job, and meat is expensive, and wood and what you need. Um, I've been thinking about how to set things up out there, and I've actually got 3 smokers outside right now, so I can definitely cover different smokers as well. I've got an offset Firebox Texas style smoker out there that I use a lot, but then I had an Acorn style. I have 2 of them actually. One's at my parents' house, but I have an Acorn here that used to be at Rock's house, and I didn't have it here for a long time. But my friends helped me clear out my storage unit that was down by Rock's house, and we brought it back. But I think it needs to be worked on. I think Rock let it get kind of shitty, so I gotta open that up when the snow goes away. And then I have the electric smoker that I bought when I was living in Madison, and I couldn't have an open flame anything on my balcony, so I had to get this electric smoker. And actually, it works pretty well. It's not my favorite thing in the world because it's got a little tube on the side that locks in, and you have to fill it with wood chips, and you have to do that like 5 or 6 times during the smoke. Like every couple hours you have to refill it. I just never got around to it. I mean, I've got everything I need. I've got the smokers, I've got the recipes, I've got the camera, which this is a broadcast quality camera, and I've got the wireless microphone. So I can do it. Because I don't have a camera operator, I just have to figure out how I want to do things. That's all. And then I got busy trying to find a job, and I didn't really smoke too much last year here at home. I did it mostly at my parents' house. But I think there's enough interest. I could probably do something. Definitely not doing it now because there's way too much snow. The other thing is, with the Acorn style smoker, I mean, there's kind of a craft to it. The way that it stands, it's like a big green egg, but it's nowhere near as expensive. But you have to learn how to dial in the two vents on it to kind of figure out the temperature that you want to run and how to keep it consistent. And I love that smoker. The one I have at my parents', I love it. I use it all the time. But a couple of years ago, I got what's called a CyberQ, which is this little computer, and it's got 4 probes, so you can put a probe out there for the grill temperature, and then you have more for meat. And everything's built in. And it's got a little web server built into it, little just a Apache web server, and there's a flange that comes with it that you replace the bottom vent. With this smoker, there's the bottom vent's a piece of metal that slides back and forth, and you close and open it. So this flange replaces that, and then it comes with a fan. And what this thing does, the computer actually controls your fire for you. And I love it because it's basically a set and forget situation. You're not opening up and checking temperatures. You're not opening up to see if you have any flame on or anything else. This computer handles everything. And once you figure it out, and once you learn kind of how things work and how to set the top vent, because everything I always saw, it controls the fire by only being the only source for air. So the fan actually will spin up and come down, and that's how it adjusts the temperature for you. But they say to close the vent completely on top. But to me, it seemed, and I did that, but it seemed like you need some way for that smoke to escape a little bit better than just seeping through the seal of the lid. So I actually open it a crack because you want that smoke swirling around inside. And I was getting much better quality, I thought, with that. So it's learning those kind of things, and that's what smoking's all about, is trial and error. Try to figure out what tastes best to you, what works best for you, you know. But I think there's a lot of foundational stuff that I can cover for y'all. So now I just got to figure out where I'm going to live. I don't know if I have to move to Green Bay if I get a call back for this job that I don't think I am for some reason, because I haven't heard back from them yet. But once I figure out a job and if I'm staying here, if I'm moving or whatever, I think I can figure things out a little bit more. But I haven't smoked anything since Christmas. I did a turkey at Christmas, and it was fantastic. But I've been upping my game the last couple of years, like with ham especially, because ham really worried me. I'd never done a ham before. My stepdad wanted it. He loves ham, and I figured out a really good injection for the ham, because I was so afraid when I did the first one that I was going to dry it out. That's, you know, you always hear that you're going to dry the ham out. You're going to dry the ham out. And honestly, every ham that I've smoked so far has been amazing. It's just finding a butcher that can get you the right cut. I mean, it's just crazy. And curing the ham and whatnot. But turkeys I've been doing differently too now. Because turkeys, originally I used to do the beer can method. I would put some aromatics in there and shove the beer can up there, empty about half the beer out of the can. And it was good. It was really good. It stays moist. It tastes really good. The last couple times, I was really interested because Alton Brown has this cool method of just baking a turkey and brining it. And the brine is really good. It's not really any salt. There's a little bit of salt in it, but his brine recipe is like has a lot of vegetable stock and really earthy flavors. So I really wanted to try it, and I tried it once and I loved it. You brine it for like an hour or two, and it turned out really, really good. So I did the same thing at Christmas, but I did a different rub. My uncle just passed away last year, my Uncle Bob, and he helped start the Kansas City Barbecue Society. He competed for years. He won for brisket at the American Royal one year. And I would bounce stuff off of him, but I actually do things very differently than he did. He actually taught barbecue to people. People would fly into Kansas City to go through his class. So he passed away last year. And his son, my cousin, David, he and I, like family-wise, for all three families that I have, my stepdad's family, my mom, my dad, I'm probably closest to him. Because we were both only children. You know, I didn't live down there my whole life, but he's older than me, but we've always been pretty close. So I stayed with him for a few days when I was down there for the funeral, and I always liked his dad. My Uncle Bob was a really cool guy. He was an intense guy, but he was a really cool guy. And my cousin David gave me a USB drive, and it's all of my uncle's recipes, including the rub that he sold, which I think my cousin might try to sell again, but I have all of his recipes. And his rub is really interesting, because when you look at kind of, if you go online, and there's barbecue information everywhere online, and 9 times out of 10, a barbecue rub has a few key ingredients that you see in every recipe. And like my uncle's rub has no salt in it, which is crazy. But it's a fantastic rub, and it's a very different flavor. So it's things like that, and I kind of want to start working some of his recipes into things. So I made a sauce not too long ago that my uncle actually inherited from this family that owned a barbecue shop in KC back in the 70s. That apparently was pretty popular, but but then they got shut down from some racial thing. Like they were accused of denying service to a taxi driver that was black. I don't know the family. I don't know anything, but I got really interested in this place because I'd never heard of it before. And I looked it up, and that's all I could glean. But it sounds like it was all a misunderstanding, but whatever. But their sauce recipe I have now, and I made it a few months ago. It was really good. But it's basic, so I've started playing with the recipe a little bit, and that's probably the next thing I'm going to do is work on that recipe more. But it's a fun hobby. It's as expensive as collecting video games. It can be. I mean, there's a trailer smoker that I really want to get, but it's like $3-4 grand or something, and I don't have a truck to pull it with because I don't want to ruin my car. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on about that, and I'm no expert by any means. I mean, there's a lot of barbecue. Did you pee? I guess not. Okay. Sorry, I thought the dog peed. Okay. I mean, there's barbecue shows, and obviously the names pop up like Tuffy and Myron Mixon, who I've actually met before. My uncle knew Myron Mixon, and everybody calls him kind of an asshole. I've had some of Myron's meat. I wasn't that interested. I wasn't that impressed, honestly. I think my brisket's better than his. That's me. You have pride in your food. I mean, the first barbecue competition I entered, even though it was a small one up here in Wisconsin, I won it. I won People's Choice, and they said it was a landslide. So I was doing something right. And what I was making back then, everything I make now is way better than that. But then you have to learn about woods, different hardwoods, because that's a recipe upon itself. You're not just making a sauce. You're not just making a rub, but how you incorporate different woods into it, and at what times even sometime, can make a difference. Hey, Reese, thanks much. I mean, I could talk barbecue forever. I really could. When I was down there for my uncle's funeral, it was crazy because he was a Kansas City police officer for years. He was in the Army before that. But he was also pretty big in the barbecue community. So his funeral, I mean, it was packed. It was jam-packed with people. And it was literally like cops and barbecue people. So I got to hear all these crazy cop stories. And I mean, I wish I could remember them because they were fucking hilarious. But then I got to talk to the barbecue folks. And my cousin and I are kind of throwing around the idea of maybe, like this summer, maybe competing with each other. Even though I don't know how that'll work, because my cousin's he's very into his ways. And he makes things like his dad did. And I never really agreed with a few ways that his dad did it. Because at the end, my Uncle Bob actually started using a lot more charcoal. I don't know. Because I remember the last time he and I talked to each other about that stuff, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what? This is fucking crazy. Who is this guy? But my cousin and I have been talking about maybe competing. I mean, he's got a lot of the equipment down there, and he's got a truck to pull everything with. But I just don't know how we would get along in terms of using my ways, or is it just going to be all my cousin's ways and that's it? But I think I could learn something from him. I think I could learn especially how to handle the situation of doing competition more, because the one I did was kind of small. And hey, Splinters, thanks much. I don't know what I'm a natural of, but yeah, I don't know. I would love to do it. I just need to find a job so I can afford it. But I would love to do it, and I don't have the channel here. I don't have the access to the channel here, but there's a couple channels, like food channels, that they do a lot of barbecue competitions. And whenever I go to my parents, I just sit and watch them all the time, trying to learn things. But the way Myron Mixon does things, I don't agree with him at all. Like he does really fast for brisket. He tries to sear it basically. But if you go to Salt Lick Barbecue down by Austin, Texas, that's how they do it as well. They run it really high temperature to sear it, the brisket, and to keep it moist, and then they smoke it after that. I don't agree with that. I get it, but I don't agree with it. And also, I get a little pissy with people that always say, like, oh, do a lot of injection for brisket and you won't dry it out. Guess what? If you make brisket the right way, I don't inject. I've never dried out a brisket. My briskets are always juicy. It sounds like you're just making excuses and you don't know what you're doing. Thanks, Reese. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I just got to figure out my personal life situation and figure out where I'm going to work and where I'm going to live and everything, and then I can think about it. All right, we're getting to the end here of the podcast. Um, but yeah, it's. I would love to even maybe do a barbecue podcast at some point, but I don't think it's that compelling. And also, I don't know who I would do it with. I don't want to do it alone. But I'll do something. Maybe when the snow breaks, maybe I'll get the camera outside and I'll smoke something easy like a pork butt or something. Then I can show you this really cool So I hate pulling pork. I hate it. I hate it. So I got this really cool thing. It's a it's for a drill. It's a bit about like this big. It's about 6 inches long, and it's got these big stainless steel prongs on it, four of them. So you take the whole pork butt, which it's called a pork butt, but it's a pork shoulder. You take the whole thing, and you've already taken the bone out. You put it in like a stock pot, and you just run this bit in there, and just churn away at it like an emulsion mixer, and it pulls everything perfectly. It's crazy. So I got that thing, and I love doing pulled pork now because I always loved doing the pulled pork, but I hate pulling it. I just hate it. Ah. And I've tried different implements. I've tried the fork method, which I usually do. I got those claws one time, but they don't work that well. But that thing for the drill is just awesome. But I want to smoke a turkey. My friend Heather, she wanted some smoked turkey from Christmas, and she never picked it up, and it's in the freezer still. But I kind of want to do a turkey here at the house, and this year I want to focus on making my ribs better. My ribs are good, but they're not, like, I couldn't enter those in the competition right now. There's no way. But they're good. They're good enough for Marshfield, where I live. Holy shit. Ooh, Bayonetta and Vanquish are out today. Running at 4K at 60 frames per second on PS4 Pro. That's awesome. I really want those games. Bayonetta. That's right. Ray wants to do a podcast with Mark. Jeez. I'm really getting hungry for barbecue now. I'm talking about that. I hope the weather clears up. Maybe this weekend, maybe I'll see if I can get a brisket and do a brisket. Because I'm actually kind of dying for some barbecue brisket. Some smoked brisket. Oh, I wonder how I'm doing on hickory logs though, because I don't. Walmart actually carries a really huge bag of hickory logs, which that's one thing up here. It's really tough to get the hardwood I need to smoke, so I usually have to order it from this place out in New York State. But they have these like nice sized logs that go perfectly into my Texas side fire box, perfect size. But Walmart usually doesn't have smoking stuff out during the winter here, so get a Patreon smoking full time. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. My kitchen's not very good for it though. I have a terrible kitchen in this house. Oh yeah. Okay, we're almost done. Then that was one of the things I was thinking about, like, how do I basically I would have to set up a table outside or out in the garage to do the slicing or the final prep. But My garage is so full of stuff right now that I don't know, man. Because when we emptied out my rental, my storage unit down by Rock's house, my buddy Travis and Rock and then me, we all came back here, and I can't do any of that work. I can't even get up in the truck because I'll fall off that ramp. So they basically unpacked the whole truck, and they literally just threw it all in the fucking garage. So I can't even get my car in the garage right now. I gotta go through all that stuff because I have a lot of my dad's trains. My dad used to build trains, little HO gauge trains, and he won awards like nonstop for it, which my uncle still has all of those. But I have boxes of trains out in the garage, and I've got normal stuff: the snowblower, the lawnmower, an arcade cabinet, all that junk. And it's a big garage. It's a 2.5 car garage, but full of stuff right now. I think it'd be fun to do that, though. It's funny too because there's I think it's a store down in Texas, and they do some videos. I think it's called like the Meat Church or the Church of Meat or something like that. And they're pretty adept at things, but they kind of do stuff Texas style and only Texas style. And of course, I don't agree with it. But one of my quests with the smoking thing is to learn the four major types of smoking here in the United States, which is, Carolina style, and that's Georgia as well. Georgia's a little more peach wood, which, Texas style, California, which is all tri-tip bullshit, and then Kansas City style, which obviously I'm a fan of because that's where I'm from. So I think that's something that I could touch on as well, and I could learn a little bit more with like Southern Carolina style because that's a lot of vinegar and it's a very different way to do things. It's all pork. Texas style is mainly brisket and beef ribs, and it's salt and pepper, and maybe if you're farther south, it's like cayenne pepper and something to give it a little more zing, but it's mainly salt and pepper, and that's it. Because Texas style and Kansas City style overall are kind of similar, but Kansas City is a little more diverse, and also it's all about the sauce in Kansas City. They're made to kind of mix. So, but in Texas, 9 times out of 10, you go to a place, they don't have sauce. And even if they have sauce, Salt Lick is really good out by Austin. You don't hear about it a lot because Franklin gets all the press. But Salt Lick's been there forever, and it's really good. It's fantastic stuff. But they have a sauce, and I bought a bottle of it. There's a great little barbecue shop in Kansas City by my aunt and uncle's house in Olathe, and they had the Salt Lick barbecue sauce, and I got it, and it's awful. It's just awful. I don't know if it's vinegar in it or what, but I even had my friend try it. My friend Travis that helps me out with competitions, and he just looked at me. He's like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the kind of sauce you get in Texas, apparently." But most places in Texas, it's all about the meat itself. There's no sauce, which is fine. I mean, I don't use sauce all the time either. Okay, we're almost done. I'm talking about Joel, which I'm going to try to get Joel on the podcast soon. I've talked to him about it. We just got to figure out a day because he does his own right now. All right. Only a couple more minutes left. So anybody else got any other questions? Anybody got any suggestions for a comedian to put at the end this week? See if I have their material. Lewis Black, you say? I have a ton of Lewis Black. Whoop. What happened? Oh, shit. Oh, that's right. The recording stopped all of a sudden, so I have... That was weird. It just cut off. I'm like, whoa, what happened? Okay, GarageBand, why are you fucking up here? Sorry, give me a minute. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here's who I have. Weatherman. It's Weatherman. I've got Adam Ferrara, Adam Sandler. I don't know why I have that. Amy Schumer, Andrew Daly, Bill Burr, Bill Cosby. Should I put a Cosby clip? Yeah. Bill Hicks, Bob and Brian, who are guys in Milwaukee. Bob and Doug McKenzie, Brian Posehn, Brian Regan, Christian Finnegan. This Comedy Death Ray album that's pretty good. It's all a bunch of different comics. Danny Gould, Dane Cook, Daniel Tosh, Dave Attell, David Cross, Dennis Leary, Dennis Miller. I think all the Dennis Miller stuff's too long, though. Doug Benson, Eddie Izzard, Eugene Merman, Frank Caliendo, Milwaukee's own. Greg Giraldo, Greg Proops, Hannibal Buress, Henry Cho, Jim Gaffigan, Jim Norton, Joe Rogan, John Heffron, who apparently follows our Twitter. I think he listens to this podcast, too. John Panette, Kathy Madigan, Kevin Pollak, Lewis Black, Louis C.K., Mark Maron, Maria Bamford, Mark Gross, Mike Birbiglia, Monty Python, Nick DiPaolo, Nick Swartzen, Norm MacDonald, Patrice O'Neill, Patton Oswalt, Paul F. Tompkins, Red Fox. Red Fox stuff's all too long. Robert Kelly, Robert Schimmel, Rodney Carrington, Rodney Dangerfield, Ron White, and Tig Notaro. That's just on the hard drive. That's some of it. Whoops. Gosh, I don't know who I'm going to use. Well, you said Lewis Black. So I've got 3 Lewis Black albums on here. If you built a roof and it was 2 foot off, you'd still be in prison. Oh, yeah. Oh, here's a Super Bowl clip. Yeah. I remember that now. I wonder if I have that. I don't have any of his newer stuff. Yeah, I don't have that clip. Here's one about the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Yay, we're done. Well, there it is. Okay. Let's... Oh, should probably turn the keyboard on. All right. So let me listen to this clip. You won't be able to hear it, but... Oof. Ooh, it got windy outside. So, I've got one of the Google hubs. And then I can see if anybody's outside perpetrating any shenanigans. And I can tell when the mailman shows up, which he already did. Yeah, let's use this clip. That's a good Lewis Black clip. So this is Lewis Black talking about the wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl. Where did it go? Super Bowl. Okay. Okay. So the podcast is... Whoop, stop playing, you fuck. Podcast is 4 hours, 3 minutes, and 7 seconds this week. So now, because GarageBand sucks, I have to do this and put basically like a chapter marker every 15 minutes, or it won't export. It'll freeze up on me. This was fun to figure out. And it doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be roughly 15 minutes. And I actually use an old version of GarageBand on this Mac because the newer version fucked a lot of stuff up. Because this actually has like a preset for podcasts, and they took it completely out of the newer versions of GarageBand, so I've never updated this one. Because this is actually running like a full Mac. This is a Mac Pro. An old one, but it's a Mac Pro. With 2 4-core processors and like, I think 2 gigs of RAM I have or something. And I actually bought this thing used from Apple, or refurbished from Apple. What do I have? I have 32 gigs of RAM. And I run a regular hard drive, and then I also have a scratch RAID or a RAID in here. So I can do. At the time, it was for video capture because I have this Blackmagic capture card that was really good, but it was years ago in the PS3 days when I put it in, and the individual hard drive in there wasn't fast enough to capture stuff at 1080p uncompressed. So I have three SCSI drives in this Mac, and they run a RAID. I think I'm running a RAID 5 volume, and it's great because then I do all my editing, all my video editing, all my audio editing off that, and I don't have any performance issues. Oops. On. But the problem is the drives like to die every now and then, and they're getting harder to get a hold of, and they have to be a SCSI drive, which already is kind of a pain in the ass because a lot of things are moving away from SCSI. And this thing doesn't have USB 3.0 or anything, and so I'm very limited. Like, I can plug an SSD drive into it, but it's only as fast as, you know, a USB 2 connection. So I mainly just, if I plug an SSD in, it's because I'm transferring data off of here. Like when I went to the event in San Francisco, I had to take an SSD drive with me, a 1 terabyte SSD, to capture all the video. So instead of plugging it into my PC and transferring it over the network, I just plugged the drive right into this and took like an hour to transfer all the data off. Now, I mean, yes, I probably go overboard with editing a podcast and, you know, etc. But number one, it's the way I've always done it. Number two, it's because I care about the audio quality. So I'm dealing with all uncompressed audio until I compress it down for consumption. Before I upload it to the website and everything, it's not compressed until I output the full file. Okay, split that. There we go. So there's the finished podcast. 4 hours, 3 minutes, 7 seconds. And then share, export. What the hell am I gonna call this one? What's the matter, baby girl? Huh? What's the matter? What's the matter, sweet girl? Huh? Yeah, it's lunchtime, isn't it? Well, let me export this, and then we'll go eat. And then you can stop pulling shit off my desk. Like a capture card. Here, grab this. I know it's lunchtime. You want to go out and see if you can bark at somebody. I get it. I don't know what I'm going to call this. But in a better mood. We'll call it that. Oh, that's right, no spaces. I used to yell at Dave all the time because he would send me the file and it would have spaces in the name, and our web host or our website won't read the file if it has spaces in the name, in the actual file name. All right, so there we go. It's exporting. So thanks for keeping me company, everybody. I'm going to go take the dog OUT and have some lunch. Some leftover chicken from yesterday. So, I got to work on that Division 2 video, but I might break out the original Xbox and maybe play some Steel Battalion today or tomorrow on a stream. I know it's on a PlayStation, blah blah blah, but that's some gaming history right there. No, she passes out again. So seriously, thanks for keeping me company, and it was a very nice distraction of sitting through a 4-hour podcast to edit it. So, because it is the one thing I really truly hate about doing the podcast is the editing and stuff. I despise it. I have grown to just dread it over the years. So, holy shit. My phone's full of a lot of stuff. Okay. So thank you, everybody. You have to work. Hopefully it won't be as long of as big of a gap for the next podcast. Like I said, I had a job interview last week that I had to travel for, and then before that I went to San Francisco, so I just didn't have time to record. But this one's a lot of fun. It's myself, it's Jason Rostel, and it's Ray, and they get along really well. They talk all the time, and just the three of us, it was a lot of fun. So hopefully you enjoy it. It'll probably be posted later today because I'm going to go eat before I put it all up because I have to talk to Chaz about getting a banner. But I'll get it up on the feed probably in about an hour or so, something like that. And you can have something to fall asleep to tonight. All right, take it easy, y'all.